गुरुभ्यो नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुदेवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। स्थावरं जङ्गमं व्याप्तं येन कृत्स्नं चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। चिन्मयं व्यापि यत्सर्वं त्रैलोक्यं सचराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। सर्वश्रुतिशिरोरत्न विराजितपदाम्बुजः वेदान्ताम्बुजसूर्याय तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। चैतन्यं शाश्वतं शान्तं व्योमातीतं निरञ्जनं बिन्दुनादकलातीत तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ज्ञानभक्तिसमारूढ तत्त्वमाला विभूषितः भुक्तिमुक्तिप्रदाता च तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। अनेकजन्म सम्प्राप्तः कर्मबन्धविदायिने आत्मज्ञानप्रदानेन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। शोषणं भवसिन्धोश्च प्रापनं सारसम्पदः गुरोः पादोदकं सम्यक् तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। न गुरोरधिकं तत्त्वं न गुरोरधिकं तपः तत्त्वज्ञानात् परं नास्ति तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। मन्नाथ श्री जगन्नाथो मद्गुरो श्री जगद्गुरुः ममात्मा सर्वभूतात्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। गुरुरादि अनादिश्च गुरुः परमदैवतं गुरोः परतरं नास्ति तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देवा। गुरुभ्यो नमः।
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste. Param Vedanta team welcomes you all for the Guru Purnima celebrations. Guru occupies a unique and paramount position in the lives of human being. Small things, I would say, anything and everything in our lives is learned only by Guru. We are talking, walking, eating, reading, writing, cooking, driving, searching, researching, helping, sharing, loving, living, and doing things from our mother, father, teacher, friends, teachers, animals, experiences, air, water, fire, earth, sky, and boundless gurus. You can see that Guru is a single Vyakti Tattva existence. You can imagine how important it is that is this visible in our lives. very time. Yes, right from Adi Sadashiva to Vedavyasa to Sankara to Chinmaya to Paramarthananda, each and every one and many other gurus have enriched this spiritual world with their invaluable contributions. This is that auspicious Ashada Shuddha Purnima day. We bow down in reverence to all the gurus and that Guru Tattva. Come on, friends, let's take a dip in that holy Ganges of Guru Tattva and secure eligibility to receive Guru Kripa. After presentations by a couple of speakers on selected topics, Dr. Hegde sir himself will throw light on Guru Mahima. Later, he will take us into the world of Upanishads. Now, on behalf of all the students of Param Vedanta, I offer my salutations to Dr. Timmappa Hegde sir, who has been a friend, guide, and guru to all of us, and request him to take this further. Over to you, sir. Hari Om.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Today is the auspicious Guru Purnima, a day when we have an opportunity to offer thanksgiving to our Guru, who gives us the Parama Purushartha, the highest accomplishment possible. While we are offering our salutations to our Guru, we offer our salutations to the entire Parampara of Guru through this nice mantra which goes this way. Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara Om. Kabir in one of his dohas has said, it so happened that my Guru and Govinda both appeared simultaneously before me, and I had a doubt, whom should I prostrate to first? The doubt immediately cleared. I prostrated to my Guru first because of my Guru, I have got my Govinda. There is a very nice Guru mantra which goes like this to indicate the importance of the Guru in our lives. Tvameva matacha pita tvameva. You are like my mother and my father to me. Tvameva bandhu. Bandhu is a close relative. Sakha tvameva. You are my friend. Tvameva vidya. You are all my knowledge, and dravinam. Dravinam means wealth. And the last line is beautiful, which says, Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. All that I am today, I owe it to you. What is the role of Guru in our lives? According to the Kathopanishad, there are 3 runas that we need to fulfill, which is called Pitra Runa, Loka Runa, and Acharya Runa. How do we fulfill our debt to our parents? By being a worthy student, a worthy child to our parents. When others are able to say how blessed your parents are that they have a daughter or a son like you, you fulfill Pitra Runa. How do you fulfill Loka Runa? If I am certain that I am able to contribute more than I have been able to take from society, I fulfill debt number 2. The third debt is the debt of Parama Purushartha or Moksha. The glory and joy of being a human being is that we can pursue the highest Purushartha or Moksha. And this is possible only through the help of a Guru, and the Guru helps you through the Shastras. There are 2 kinds of Vidya, and on this day we offer our thanksgiving to all the Gurus of the Apara Vidya, which is the worldly knowledge, and particularly so for the spiritual masters who give us Para Vidya or spiritual knowledge, or the knowledge which gets to know our real self. What does a Guru do? A Guru takes away from you what you think you have but don't. That is our false ideas about ourselves, particularly our ego and our wrong beliefs. And our Guru gives you something that you've already had, the real riches that you have, your true self, your higher self or Atma that we are not aware of. On this particular day, I invite 3 of our sadhakas, Radha, Ravi Shankar and Rama in sequence, to tell you something more about Guru Purnima and the importance of the Guru in our lives. We begin with Radha. Over to you, Radha.
Brahmanandam Paramasukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrusham Tattva तत्त्वमस्याधिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलम् अचलं सर्वाधि साक्षिभूतम् भावातीतं त्रिगुणारहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Before we start every class, we chant Sadashiva Samarambham Vyasa Shankara Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. This means starting from the very Lord Sadashiva to the present Guru, this knowledge has come to us in an unbroken lineage or parampara or the sampradaya. This Guru Parampara is very important, one, because it gives us a sense of belongingness, and then also it gives us a protective framework within which we learn and unlearn. Now, many people often ask, who is my real Guru? Well, Guru is not just a person, he is a principle, it is a tattva, or it is a guiding light that we have to invoke within our own hearts. And when we are ready, a Guru will definitely manifest in the physical world. It is a combination of both. It is a guiding light from within and a holding hand from outside. That's how I would put it. Most of us have Ganga Jal in our homes, and mostly we keep it in our puja rooms in a container. We offer our prayers and our reverence to the Ganga inside, but the container is very much required to hold the Ganga. Guru is similar to this. He is embodiment of the knowledge. He is a container of that knowledge. Now, what is the role of this Guru in our lives? In the last lecture, I spoke about Maya. And if at all the Maya has to loosen her grip, or we have to get out of her grip, and if there is one person in the entire universe who can do it for us, it is none other than the Sadguru. This Guru prepares us, he gives us knowledge and takes us to a level of awareness in our life from where he can give the ultimate instruction that any Guru can give to any Sishya. And this instruction is Tattvam Asi. That means you are that. Once this instruction is given to the Sishya, there is a paradigm shift in the Sishya, and he has to internalize this message and claim Aham Brahmasmi. Means I am that very truth or the Brahman. Such a beautiful journey, isn't it, between a Guru and a Sishya? And for this auspicious journey, what kind of Guru Tattva that we have to invoke in our lives? I just chanted a prayer. Let me try and explain the meaning. Brahmanandam is the bliss of the Brahman. Paramasukhadam, it is of the highest nature. Kevalam jnanamurtim is nothing but embodiment of this very knowledge. Dvandvatitam, it is beyond the pair of opposites. In the world, we are always entangled with joy, sorrow, good, bad, this kind of duality. Guru is somebody who has risen above this duality and who is capable of taking us to that place. Gagana Sadrusham, we say sky is the limit, right? So this Guru is at the highest point of awareness. Tattvamasya laksham. Laksham is goal. And what is this goal where we have to reach? We have to reach that point of awareness where we understand and internalize Tattvam Asi, I am that. Ekam, this journey, there are no others. Either you are there or God is there. There is no scope for anybody else in this journey. Nityam, it is everlasting, eternal. Vimalam pure, absolute purity. Achalam is firmly established in the truth. There is no doubt at all. Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam, witness principle to everything that's happening in the universe. Bhavatitam, it's beyond emotions. Triguna Rahitam, it's beyond Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, these three gunas. Sadguru Tam Namami. I invoke such a principle, such a tattva of Guru into my life, and I surrender to such a principle called Guru. Now I request Dr. Ravi Shankar to throw more light upon Guru Tattva and speak few words about Guru Parampara. Thank you.
Thanks for asking me to speak on Guru Tattva, Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. All of us have a Guru in our parents, relatives, and friends to begin with. Then you crave for something higher, more meaningful in life, and you look around, you read, you listen, attend to satsangs. Lo, behold, your Guru appears before you. We know ice melts. Stones can also melt, they say. But the mind does not melt easily. Mind is Bahyaranga. It's attached to all the sense organs. And looking outwards, if we withdraw the mind inwards and look inwards, like a tortoise withdraws its limbs into its shell, you realize a bigger, brighter, better world. Guru Tattva can be active in person or even far away. Guru Mantra Samo Nasti, they say. Guru is in the human form, but the Guru teachings are eternal. Guru is in the Atyanta Uchchasthana. Acharyavan Purusho Vedaha, says the Chandogya. Only a Guru can teach you the purport of the Vedas through a Shrotriya Brahmanishtaha. Adi Guru, Sri Dakshinamurti, is a Tattva. But we say Sri Guru Murtaye. Our Guru is in the Murti form of this Tattva. These are some of the elements of a Guru. Shraddhavan Labate Jnanam. We should have the Shraddha and we should have the Adhikari to get that Jnanam. Krishna and Kuchela, they once went to the forest to collect firewood and they got lost. Their Guru came to their rescue and said, let the Vedas protect you. Even Krishna Paramatma needed a Guru for protection. Yasya Deve Tatha Paro Bhakti. Devotion to Guru and Ishvara should be equal. Now, what does a Guru do? Shishya Hitaya Satatam. Anchored in Brahman and always looking for the Hita of the Shishyas is what Adi Shankara said in the Prashnottara Malika. Now, what should we do to a Guru like this? We should do our Namaskara. And why should we do the Namaskara? To expend our karmas. And what do we gain when we do Namaskara? You gain Jnana. Adi Shankara composed the beautiful Kanakadhara Stotra for the benefit of a poor old lady, not for himself. Mahalakshmi came and asked, what shall I give you? And Adi Shankara said, this prayer was for the old lady, not for myself, but I cannot refuse you. So please give me fulfillment in the Namaskara and the act itself. And this is Sashtanga Namaskara, Sharanagati, Kaya Vacha Manasa. You have seen those bamboo sticks which are all tied with a cord and they're against the wall. And you cut the cord and all those bamboo sticks fall on the floor. That is how that Sharanagati should be from the Shishya when they see a Guru. Nirlajjo Guru Sannidhav. Sashtanga, they must fall when there is a Guru by their side. He later, Adi Shankara, had the darshan of his Guru Govind Padacharya near Narmada in a cave with the feet first. Even today, Dakshinamurti Ashtakam is recited with a Namaskara after every stanza, not only by us, but even by our Acharyas. Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Nama Idam Shri Dakshinamurti. On the occasion of Guru Purnima, mention of Guru Peetham was considered essential by our teacher, Dr. Timmappa Hegde. Dakshinamaya Sringeri Sharda Peetham was established by Adi Shankara in the 8th century to preserve, protect, and propagate Sanatana Dharma at Sringagiri on either banks of the Tunga river. It is here that Bhagavad Pada Shankara saw a snake spread its hood to protect a pregnant frog in pain from the scorching sun. He came back here to the same place and established the first mutt and also stayed there for 12 long years. He consecrated the Sri Sharadamba temple with a sandalwood statue in the 8th century, as Nityavasini continues to stay there ever and eternal on a Sri Yantra symbol. Jagadguru Vidyatirtha was the 10th Guru of the famed Vidya Shankara temple. The first pontiff was Sri Sureshwaracharya. The 34th pontiff was Jivan Mukta Jagadguru Sri Chandrasekhar Bharati Mahaswamiji. The 36th pontiff is Jagadguru Mahasannidhanam Sri Bharati Tirtha Mahaswamiji and his Karakamala Sanjata Sannidhanam Jagadguru Sri Vidhu Shekhara Bharati Mahaswamiji. The purpose of the mutt is to preserve and pursue Advaita Vedanta Siddhanta, which is what we follow in all our classes. Dharma, Pathshalas, libraries, and a repository of Samskrita. The Mahavakya here is Aham Brahmasmi. Sharda Peetham is also called as a Vyakhyana Samsthana. The Birudavali mentions Avichinna Guru Parampara, an unbroken lineage since inception. You must have heard of the Darbar. Darbar is during Navaratri time, and it began after establishing the Vijayanagar Empire in the 13th century by Hakka and Bukka. Lord Shiva gave the crystal Chandramaulishwara, and it is a wonderful sight to watch the Acharyas perform the puja every single day. Akshara Abhyasa and Nitya Anudana are highlights of this place. I request now Srimati Rama Gopal Krishna to talk on Chaturmasya and Vyasa Puja. Hari Om.
Thank you, Doctor. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. A crucial annual activity in the life of a sannyasi is Chaturmasya Vratam. The term Chaturmasya means 4 months. Vedas say Paksha vai Masaha, meaning Paksha is taken as a month and the Vratam is observed for 2 months. This Vratam can be followed by all, even including Grihasthas. This is a self-imposed measure to reduce our dependence on the material world and to realize the inner self. During monsoon, if sannyasis travel, they may cause injury to insects and worms, which would be against their ahimsa and abhaya vrata. So the sannyasi proposes to stay in one place. Shishyas agree and seek blessings of spiritual knowledge. They also make all the necessary arrangements for the Chaturmasya Vrata. During his stay, the sannyasi, next slide, sir, please. During his stay, the sannyasi meditates on the Brahman and guides the followers spiritually. He imparts knowledge through discussions on scriptures. Satsangas, dharma sadhanas, annadanam are arranged by the devotees. Some impose restrictions on food like Shakha Vratam, Kshira Vratam, Dadhi Vratam, and Vidala Vratam. The start of the Chaturmasya Vratam, next slide please. The start of the Chaturmasya Vratam is marked by Vyasa Puja. It is performed by sannyasis on the Purnimi day of Ashada Masa. Devatas, Maharshis, Gurus, Paramagurus, and Parameshti Gurus are invoked and offered prayers seeking their invaluable blessings to realize the supreme truth. Separate pujas, naivedyams, and aratis are offered to 3 groups of panchakams. They are Krishna Panchakam, Vyasa Panchakam, and Shankara Panchakam as shown. Vyasa Puja is performed on the Ashada Purnima or Vyasa Purnima, or is called Vyasa Purnima. In Bharatiya Sanskriti, next slide. In Bharatiya Sanskriti, Guru has a special place. The most venerated Guru, Veda Vyasa, blessed us by classifying the Vedas into 4, writing the Mahabharatam, the 18 Puranas, the Bhagavatam, and the Brahma Sutras, which are a great source of Vedic knowledge. The morals in the Mahabharatam were relevant, are still relevant, and will be relevant in the future. The saying, Vyasochishtam Jagat Sarvam, meaning there is nothing in the world that Veda Vyasa has not touched upon, as evident from his works. Therefore, Veda Vyasa is to be worshipped by every sadhaka. Reference to the tradition of Guru Purnima is seen in Brahmanda Purana. One of the aspirants told Vedavyasa, "You have contributed extensively to the Vedic knowledge. How can we show our gratitude and offer respect to you?" Vedavyasa replied, "Worshipping your own Guru is worshipping me." He also designated Ashada Purnima as Guru Purnima. When lost on a road trip and somebody directs us to the proper road, we are thankful to their help in solving a worldly problem. We must have thousandfold more reverence to a Guru who bestows self-knowledge and guides us to cross the ocean of samsara. Apart from Hindus, Guru Purnima is observed by Buddhists, Jains, and Sikhs. Bhagavan Buddha gave his first sermon at the Deer Park in Sarnath to the 5 monks on this day. This sermon is known as Dhamma Chakra Pravartana Sutta or Dharma Chakra Pravartana Sutra, meaning turning wheel of the sacred law. In Jainism, this day is marked as Trinong Guha Purnima, as on this day, Lord Mahavira made his first disciple. Even Sikhs observe Guru Purnima as an honor to their 10 spiritual gurus. Guru Govinda Singh refers Vedavyasa as an incarnation of Chaturmukha Brahma. Now it's time for Dr. Hegde to continue. Over to you, sir. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Radha, Dr. Ravi Shankar, and Rama, for giving us a nice insight into Chatur Masya, Guru Purnima, significance of Guru, and so on. The greatest gift that we can get is from the Guru. And the greatest form of thanksgiving is to be an embodiment of the Vedantic teaching. And what is the best offering that we can do to the Guru is to make a commitment to be committed to the teachings of the Guru. And on this day, we would like to begin a very dedicated, methodical, and a systematic study of the Upanishads. And we have selected a very small and a beautiful Upanishad called the Kaivalya Upanishad. Before we begin the study of the Upanishads, our teacher Swami Paramarthananda ji, every time he teaches a new Upanishad, goes through certain fundamentals which he gives for all the Upanishads. And if these fundamentals are very clear, we are all the more motivated why we should study the Upanishads, because the Upanishads are like mirrors which tell you about your real nature. And it is said this knowledge of the real nature is the solution for all the problems of our real life. All of us are very busy pursuing goals. Teachers have classified that whether we are young or old in this country or any country of the world, in the past or in the present, at any time, there are 3 things that all of us really want. The first is we want security. Once we have a certain amount of security, we want to maintain that peace. And once there is both peace and security, we want a certain amount of happiness. There are various kinds of happiness that we look for. And the teachers have classified happiness that you can get through persons, through certain situations, or through certain objects. Whenever we get happiness through persons, situations, or objects, they are called Vishayananda. And these joys that we get from these worldly things have certain basic defects. We have said this many times, but it's just an emphasis. The first is any accomplishment in this world is mixed with sorrow. It is called dukkha mishrita, because there is a struggle to achieve whatever you want to achieve. There is a struggle to maintain that. And whether you like it or not, we will lose it at some period of time. Either we lose it in front of us. There is a very strong verse that Adi Shankara has used in Manisha Panchakam, which says, Sashwan, Nashwan, Vishwam, Akhila. You can see the whole world crumbling in front of you. Or sometimes our own health deteriorates and you will see your health deteriorate. This is the problem with all the accomplishments in this material world. The second is called Atripti Karatvam. It is not permanently fulfilling. You will always see someone who has accomplished more. And the third thing is, whenever you have anything good in the world, it may be a good relationship, a good object, or a situation, you feel that without that, I will not be happy. This is called Bandhakatva. Now, those who have been successful in the world and those who have been exposed to this and have seen the limitations of the success in the world. That is why they say nothing fails like success. If you are very successful and successful and successful, you will never be able to look inwards. But those who have been able to examine their life and find these limitations will look for a goal which is defect-free. And the scriptures say there is something which is free from all this, and this is called Atmananda. Where is this Atmananda? And the scriptures give you a sense of direction. This permanent peace, security, and happiness that we look for, they say, is within ourselves. While that is good news, they also give you bad news. They say this peace, this security, and this happiness, limitless, without defects, is there within us only. If it is there within me, I should be an embodiment of joy. I should be all fulfilled. But the teachers say there is a certain problem. The mind is the source of all the problems. We have referred this to many times. Mana eva manushyanam karana bandha mokshaye. The same mind can be trained to discover freedom. What is the problem with the mind? The mind has certain impurities. These impurities are called Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya. Strong likes, strong dislikes, a feeling of this is mine, this is not mine. This is called Ahankara and Mamakara. These are certain impurities in the mind. And because of these impurities, the treasure within you is hidden. The second impurity of the mind is called Vikshepaha. Our mind is like a monkey mind. It is very restless. It is focused outside. When the real treasure is within, you're not able to see it. That is why we need a lot of spiritual training through various forms of meditation. It is here where meditation helps us to control our mind, to fix our mind in the object that we want to pursue for the length of time required. And this training happens through a technique called Upasana Yoga. The third defect that we have, or the third problem, although we have the treasure, this is the third layer of covering. The technical world is called avaranam, or it's ignorance. We are born with all forms of ignorance. We are born with one more ignorance, that is, we do not know our true nature, that we are the source of permanent peace, security, and happiness. The teachers not only give us a diagnosis of where the blocks are, they give you also therapy. And we have discussed this many times. It is just a repetition. For those mala, or the impurity in the mind, for strong likes and strong dislikes, the treatment is karma yoga. For years, you do your action as an offering to God, and you accept whatever you get as prasada, and slowly the mind is trained to get free from those impurities. As I said, various forms of meditations come under upasana. They train our mind to become calm. Even at this moment, to experience stillness. And this is possible through the technique of upasana. You may be in the middle of an operation. You may be in the middle of driving through traffic. But if you can come into an awareness of this moment, that is through various techniques of upasana, where you have greater control on the mind, you relish the grandeur and the glory of being in the now, and that comes through upasana. Finally, and that is the topic for today, through Jnana Yoga, through the study of the Upanishads, the third covering is removed. You discover your real you. We enter today into the most enchanting and the mysterious world of the Upanishads. Never before was the human spiritual quest so high. Osho uses these words, never before and never after has human consciousness attained to such Himalayan heights. The days of the Upanishads are truly golden. The days of the Upanishads can be recreated now again, thanks to our gurus. The Upanishads have multiple synonyms because they occur at the end part of the Vedas. They are also called Veda Anta. It is also called Jnana Kanda because it gives you Jnanam, or knowledge. It is also called Atma Vidya because the real self is also called Atma. It is also called Brahma Vidya because Atma and Brahman are one and the same. When you're referring to that consciousness within you, you refer it to as Atma. When you're referring to the total consciousness which is everywhere, you refer it to as Brahman. So these are all the synonyms for Upanishads or Vedanta. The Vedanta, or all the Upanishads, are in Sanskrit. The language is also called Deva Vani, the language of the gods. It is the oldest language in the world. And the word Samskrita means refined, transformed, purified. The language itself was transformed because so many people who attained to enlightenment used this language, and because they were using the language, something of their joy, something of their poetry, something of their being penetrated into the language itself was transformed. Our teachers say to get spiritual knowledge, you don't need a deep understanding or knowledge of Sanskrit, but make an attempt to understand these words. Deeper knowledge is only required only if you're going to be a teacher of Vedanta. The Vedas are also called Shrutis, and Shruti means that which is heard. They can be broadly divided into Veda Purva, the first portion of the Vedas, and the Veda Anta. The Veda Purva involves a lot of rituals, a lot of pujas, a lot of spiritual practices, primarily to fulfill dharma, artha, and kama. All our worldly requirements are fulfilled in the Veda Purva portion. To attain Parama Purushartha, to attain that fulfillment in yourself, that is called moksha, or the work that our teacher calls it JM, Jivan Muktihi. That means while you are alive, festered or tethered to this body, can you experience that freedom? And our teachers say it is possible, and they themselves are demonstrations of this. And when you are in proximity of people who are demonstrations of being a Jivan Mukta, it is said if one person can attain, it is everybody's birthright to attain. And on this day of Guru Purnima, let us commit ourselves to be able to work for this. This is a beautiful verse from the Mundaka Upanishad, which goes like this: Pariksha Lokan Karmachitan Brahmana. Brahmana here means a wise person who has examined his life. Socrates says, if you have not examined your life, you have not lived a worthwhile life. If you have examined your life, Pariksha, if you have examined, what do you discover? Nirvedyam. Nirvedyam is a kind of, if I can use the word, frustration. What is that I have accomplished through all my years of efforts? He uses a word here, na asti akrita kritena. Akrita means the infinite can never be attained through finite efforts. Through finite, how much ever you attain, the gap between you and your goal is like the gap between your horizon, which is always a constant. And once you understand this, that any success in the outer world cannot be totally fulfilling, Tat Vijnartham, when this wisdom dawns in your hand, in your mind, then you take a 180-degree turn. You turn within. And I have no maps. I don't have any GPS to go within. Who is the GPS? A guru is the GPS who will direct you. You go to a guru. Saha gurum eva abhigachet. Go towards a guru. You never go to a guru empty-handed. But my guru is Shri Guru. Shri means my guru is very rich. What can I take to a guru? So you carry Samit Pani. Samit Pani means you carry a twig. Symbolically, you're carrying your past. You're carrying your past knowledge. You're carrying all your ego. Put it in the feet of the guru or put it in the havan in the ashram. What kind of a guru? A Shrotriya Brahmanishta. A Brahmanishta is one who is anchored in the Brahman, who is a manifestation of God himself in living form, and who has the ability to convey his understanding in a manner that we will be able to understand. A little more details of the word Upanishad. The word Upa means Guru Upasadanam, going towards a guru. Ni means when you are with a guru, you sit at slightly a lower level, just like water flows from a higher level to a lower level. The more receptive you are, the more lower you are, the knowledge can come from a higher level to a lower level. The word Shad means avasadanam, to destroy jivatvam. Jivatvam is a sense of limitations. I am small, I am only this much. This creates bondage, this creates limitations. This is the cause of all samsara, and this is a product of ignorance. So Upanishad destroys this sense of limitations. There are more meaning to the same words. Upa means something which is very close to you. And what is closest to you? The real you, Atma. Ni means Nischaya Jnanam. This knowledge should be a conviction. Adi Shankara has given a nice set of verses called Manisha Panchakam. These 5 words are Manisha, and each of those sentences go like this: Yesha, Mama, Manisha. About this, I'm absolutely convinced. Vedantic teaching should be a matter of absolute conviction. Ni here means conviction. Shad means the one who takes you or one who delivers that knowledge. Upanishads have been classified as major Upanishads and minor Upanishads. This is a classification given to us by scholars. The word major means those Upanishads that have been commented upon by great acharyas like Adi Shankara and others. Minor Upanishads are those which we don't have commentaries from the great teachers, but they still talk about the same Brahman. In a sense, they are no minor at all. They are as great as the Upanishads, only we do not have the commentaries. There is one Upanishad called Muktikopanishad. Muktikopanishad is a teaching by Sri Rama to Hanuman, where he tells at one time there were 1,180 shakas in the Vedas. And each of these shakas at the end portion have an Upanishad. So at one time there were 1,180 Upanishads. Of them, only 108 are available now. Of them, 10 of them have been studied by the great acharyas like Shankaracharya, Madhvacharya. Of these 10 will give us a comprehensive and a complete idea of all the Vedanta. I will give you a little classification of these 10 major Upanishads. The Rig Veda is the largest of all the Vedas, but among the Dashopanishad, among the 10 Upanishads, you have one, the Aitareya Upanishad. The Yajurveda is divided into 2, Shukla Yajurveda and Krishna Yajurveda. In the Shukla Yajurveda, we study 2 Upanishads called Brihadaranyaka and Ishavasya Upanishad. In the Krishna part of Yajurveda, we have the Taittiriya Upanishad and the Kathopanishad. The Samaveda has got 2 beautiful Upanishads, Kenopanishad and Chandogya. And the Atharva Veda has got 3 among the Dashopanishad, that is Prashnopanishad, Mundakopanishad and Mandukya Upanishad. In the same Atharva Veda, there is one delightful Upanishad that we are going to study, which is called Kaivalya. Unfortunately, it has not been commented upon by the great acharyas, but it is a beautiful Upanishad and it's a wonderful Upanishad to make a beginning among your study of all the Upanishads. I have highlighted the colors. Those in blue are those our teacher first teaches all of them. And if you have the time, we can study all the 10. But today again, on Guru Purnima Day, make a commitment that I will begin a very systematic study of the Upanishads. How many Upanishads should we study, Bhagwan? Some seeker went and asked Ramana. And Ramana, in own style, says, do you shave? He says, yes. Do you use a mirror to shave? He says, yes. How many mirrors do you need to see yourself? Bhagwan's answer was, one Upanishad is enough, because the Upanishad is a mirror. These Shastras are like a mirror to see your real self, not your body, but your mind, but the one who's seeing through your body and mind. One Upanishad is good enough, but sometimes you see mirrors on all sides. There are different Upanishads which give you different angles of yourself. One Upanishad talks about the Sat aspect. One Upanishad talks about the Chit aspect predominantly. One Upanishad talks about the Ananda aspect of the Upanishad. That's why when you study 2 or 3 Upanishads, you get your own self in different angles. Our teachers and the Bhagavad Gita say this is a very rare knowledge. This is not available to many people. India is a very religious country. In this religious country, you will see so many people doing various pujas, various forms of religious practices. You meet them and ask them, what do they know about the Upanishads? You will see very few people are blessed to come to an understanding of the Upanishad. And it is said that unless you have the grace of the Lord, you are not able to come into a school of the Upanishads. It is extremely rare to find a student coming for Upanishads for various reasons, because it is not an object. You know, if I want to teach about the heart or the brain, it is an object. The Upanishads do not have an object to teach. It is the very subject. It is you. So teaching Upanishads is very difficult. You need a very special teacher. And that's the qualification of a teacher is called a Shrotriya Brahmanishta. Brahmanishta is one who is a manifestation of the teachings because he is none other than Brahman himself, and the one who has the ability to convey it in the level that we are able to understand. So what are the qualifications of the student? I've already told you about the qualifications of the teacher. The student should have one qualification, and that is called Tivra Mumukshutvam. I want it. I badly want it. I'm ready to give whatever you ask for in this life. If that student comes with that level of preparation, I'm ready to give my everything, then the teacher puts you through what is called a sadhana chatustaya sampanna, about which we have touched in the other classes. What is the subject matter of the Upanishad? The subject matter of the Upanishad or the discussion is called Brahman or Atma. This should not be confused with Brahmaji, the creator, the Chaturmukha Brahma, referred to as Brahmaji, while we use the word Brahman for Atma or the subject matter of the Upanishad. In fact, the teacher of our Upanishad, Kaivalya Upanishad, is Lord Brahmaji. I could get a picture of Lord Brahmaji, but can you get a picture of Brahman? Brahman cannot be seen because it is the seer. So let me ask you certain questions so that ask these questions in yourself. What is Brahman? Where is Brahman located? You can mentally answer these questions. What is my relationship with Brahman? What is the nature of this knowledge? This is a question which is difficult to understand. I will explain to you. What is this nature of this knowledge of Brahma Vidya? Because this is a very peculiar kind of knowledge. What is the method of knowing about Brahman? And what is the benefit of knowing? I will quickly answer all these questions. What is Brahman? The word Brahman means the big, which represents the infinite, the limitless one. Brahman also means Sat. Sat means that which is present in all three periods of time, that which is there always. Brahman can be understood as the cause of the world. One easy way to understand is Brahman is from whom I was born from. The Brahman is that which sustains all of us, and to one that we go back to can be referred to as Brahman. Where is Brahman located? If Brahman is infinite, it must be everywhere, all pervading. If Brahman is everywhere, it should be within me also. And where within me? The Taittiriya Upanishad says, in the cave of my heart, in the innermost essence of me. What is my relationship with Brahman? I've already said I have come from Brahman. Brahman is the cause. But the Upanishads give a Mahavakya, a great statement, says, the relationship between you and Brahman is the 10th man story, the one that you are seeking for. Tat Tvam Asi. Brahman is none other than the real you. We should know that you are that. You are the infinite. Now we come to this question called, what is the nature of this knowledge? There are two kinds of knowledge in our experience. One is called Paroksha Jnanam. The other is called Pratyaksha Jnanam. I will explain this term. Supposing I have never been to the Niagara Falls or Kailash Manasarovar, if I have never been there, but I have got enough information on the internet, on YouTube, I have seen videos, I have read about them, I have got enough information, but I have never seen it directly. Such knowledge, when it has not been a matter of my direct experience, is called Paroksha or remote knowledge. One day when I travel and go to these places and experience them directly, I see them, I hear the sounds, I feel that place. That knowledge, when I directly perceive through my sense organs, is called Pratyaksha Jnanam. Now my question is, Brahma Jnanam or Atma Jnanam or the Upanishadic Vidya, does it come under Paroksha Jnanam or Pratyaksha Jnanam? The answer is, it is neither. It is neither Paroksha Jnanam or Pratyaksha Jnanam. It is called Aparoksha Jnanam. It is not an object, it is the real me. It is like searching for the 10th man, and the teacher said the one that you're looking for is none other than you. Very beautifully, our Upanishadic teachers tell the story when Kunti called Karna to meet her in the middle of the Mahabharata war when she wanted to protect her own son Arjuna. And she tells Karna, I have 6 sons. You know 5 of them. Would you like to know who is the 6th Pandava? He says, I know 5 of them. I do not know who is the 6th one. And she says that sixth one is none other than you. Now, this knowledge that Karna gets, that he is none other than the son of Kunti, this knowledge is called Aparoksha Jnana. What is the method of getting this knowledge? The method of getting this knowledge is going to a spiritual acharya, sitting under him, listening to him. This is called Shravanam. And when you reflect on this teaching and clarify your doubt, it is called Mananam. And then for many years or many months, depending upon the state of the preparation of our mind, until it is like Nididhyasanam is like adding sugar to your coffee. You like sweetened coffee, you add sugar, but if you drink it without stirring it, you don't feel the coffee. And when you stir the coffee, the sweetness, when it permeates into every part of the coffee, it is when spiritual wisdom permeates into you, that is called Nididhyasana. What is the benefit of this knowledge? The benefit of this knowledge, about this I will be dealing in the next class. It is said, all our karmas get burnt. A person attains to total fulfillment, krita kritasya, or there is no more rebirth. That is called videha mukti, and a person gets total liberation while living, and this is called jivan mukti. This is the promise of the Upanishads. I will quickly touch on 3 Upanishads because this is what the Upanishads touch on, what they call Sat, Chit and Ananda. The Mundaka Upanishad, this was the first Upanishad that I got to study, and I was amazed by this question of the Upanishad, where the student comes and asks the teacher, my lord, what is that knowing which everything becomes known? And I was amazed that there is such a question. I mean, there is such an answer, that knowing that everything becomes known. And that gives you what is called Sat Vidya through the wonderful Upanishad called the Mundaka Upanishad. The Keno Upanishad is an amazing Upanishad, and all medical personnel will be especially amazed by the wisdom of this Upanishad, where the student asks the question, I'm alive, I can see, I can feel, I can touch, I can breathe, I can talk. What is that principle that makes me alive? What is that which enables me to function? And the answer to this brings the Chit, or the consciousness principle, very beautifully in this delightful Upanishad called the Keno Upanishad. And finally, there is an Upanishad called the Chandogya Upanishad, where the highly accomplished Sanat Narada, he has all the knowledge in the world. He comes to his brother, who is a great Acharya, Sanat Kumara, and tells him, in spite of my vast knowledge, there is a feeling of incompleteness. I don't have the sense of Purnatvam. Why is there some sadness within me? And Sanat Kumara introduces what is called Bhuma Vidya, the knowledge of the infinite. And infinite means Ananta. And wherever you experience Anantatvam, limitlessness, you experience Ananda. Ananda is the byproduct of understanding your limitlessness. Do we have a shortcut? All of us want shortcuts, and Krishna has given us a shortcut. It is very nicely summarized in one of the Bhagavad Gita Dhyana shlokas, which says, Sarvopanishado ghavo Dhogda Gopala Nandana Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gitamrita Mahat. Krishna has milked the essence of all the Upanishads and has given to us in the form of the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Upanishads. Before we study any Upanishad, we begin by what is called a Shanti Pata. A Shanti Pata is a form of a rapport building between the teacher and the student and God. It is a sort of a linkage that happens. Each Veda has a particular Shanti Pata. This has to be invoked both by the student and the teacher repetitively, and primarily to remove various obstacles in the study. In our classes, we have studied this beautiful Upanishad, Om Sahana Bhavatu, Om Purnamada. These are all what are called the Shanti Patas. aside, I would like to tell you something about Dara Shikoh. Dara Shikoh was the son of Shah Jahan, the oldest son of Shah Jahan. He was so impressed by the Upanishads. He studied under many Hindu gurus, and he translated about 50 Upanishads into Persian, and that's how the Upanishads went into the Western world. And Max Muller was able to translate many of these Upanishads into English in his famous book called The Sacred Books of the East. I'd like to conclude with one beautiful story. This is a story of a certain Sufi saint with a small group of followers who was moving from one oasis to another. They reached the oasis. They were extremely tired and thirsty. They were looking for some place to rest and for some food. And it so happened that a rich man was hosting a banquet and he was welcoming these guests. And as they were so hungry and tired, they approached the rich man with the hope that they will get some food. The rich man looked at them and said, "But who are you? I do not know who you are." And suddenly he reacted and said, "But I know myself." And then he thought for himself, how unfortunate it would be if the whole world knew me, but I did not know myself. My dear friends, more than the whole world knowing you, it is important that I know myself. Upanishads, through the grace of our Guru, it is possible to study these Upanishads and to know your real self and to attain to Parama Purushartha in this life itself. And that is the promise that we shall do in this day of Guru Purnima. I will in 2 slides introduce you to Kaivalya Upanishad, the Upanishad that we are going to study from next Sunday onwards. Very systematically, verse by verse, we are going to study. We will give you enough study material so that this is the message of the Upanishad is very clear. It is this Upanishad where the Vedantic teaching is very beautifully presented. Although it is not part of the Dashopanishad, Swami Chinmayananda would make it part of the curriculum. One of the unique features of this Upanishad is it deals a lot about meditation. There are string of Mahavakyas in this Upanishad. As I said, it's a small Upanishad, only 25 mantras, and it belongs to the Atharva Veda. The word Kaivalya means moksha. This Upanishad promises you moksha. The word Kevala, it is an adjectival form of Kevala. Kevala means other than you or other than me, there is nothing else. Imagine that state. You know, the only reality is you. Everything else in this world is mithya. And this Upanishad helps you to attain to Kaivalya or Purnatvam. Our teacher very nicely says, when you're frying puris in the early stage, it keeps roaming on either side of the pan. But once it attains to Purnatvam, you become still, as it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogata atman evatmana tushtaha. You become so full of yourself by understanding these Upanishads. I will conclude my presentation and request Dr. Gautam Devakar. Gautam Devakar is a psychiatrist at Narayana Hridayalaya. He will explain to you this beautiful Shanti Pata, which we will study properly, which will help you to study this Upanishad. Dr. Gautam.
Thank you very much, sir. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. All Upanishads begin with a Shanti Pata, and what Shanti Pata is determined by the Veda to which the Upanishad belongs to. Kaivalya Upanishad, like sir has already said, is from Atharvana Veda, and all Upanishads of Atharvana Veda has the same Shantipata, which is Bhadran Karne. Shantihi means Shamana, meaning to pacify, to contain. Shantihi is chanted 3 times at the end of every Shantipata in order to insulate ourselves from possible obstacles arising from 3 sources. The first one is Adi Dhaivika, those arising from natural calamities like heavy rains, earthquakes, etc. The second one is Adi Bhautika, that those troubles arising from fellow human beings or other living beings. And the last and the most important one is Adhyatmika, obstructions arising from within our own mind. Let me chant this Shantipata first, and then we will look at the meaning of it. Om Bhadran Karne Bhishrunuyama Devaha भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो रुद्रश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Vedantic approach is that our present and the future, whether it is spiritual or material, depends on two factors. The first one is our effort, which is prayatna, which is a controllable factor governed by our free will. And the second one is uncontrollables, called as adrushta, which is based on the purva karma and is governed by the fate. Shanti Patas help us to deal with both these factors. This particular Shanti Pata is invoking the blessings of Adhisthana Devaha, the preceding deities, to protect us from not only the threefold obstacles, but also to protect us from the premature death, and also provide us with the conducive functioning of all of our faculties, which is Stula Sharira and the Sukshma Sharira, which is body-mind complex, for our successful scriptural study. Bhadram karne bishrunuyama devaha. Karne bihi bhadre shrunyama. Bhadram means auspicious, pleasing. Karna is ear. May our ears always hear auspicious words. In Vedantic context, Bhadram means Bhagavan, that is Brahman, which is ever auspicious. In this Upanishad. Bhadram pashye maksha bhirya jatraha. Yajatraha ejantam trayate iti yajatra. The one who protects us. Again, it is Deva. Pashyan is to see. Let my eyes see only good things. Scriptural meaning or spiritual meaning of this is that let this teaching lead me to that state where I see God everywhere. Sarvatra Ishvara Darshanam. Sthirangaihi, Sthira Angaihi, Stuštuvamsaha Tanubihi. Sthira Angai is healthy limbs, meaning with good physical health. Tushtuvamsa Tanubihi. May I appreciate the glories of the God through Shastra Pramana. Tanubihi means scriptures. Now, let us not forget that Guru is the only medium, only channel that is available for us to understand and assimilate all the wealthy of knowledge which is there in the Shastras. Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu. Vyashema Ayuhu means let me spend my entire allotted life in Ishvara Aradhana and Atma Vichara, which is the self-inquiry. Devahitam is Karmahitam. Here, the emphasis is not for asking longer life, but to utilize the allotted life meaningfully. Like in the saying, don't add years to my life, but add life to the years. Here, the prayer is also to protect us from the Akala Mrityu, which is the premature death. In the next segment, student seeks the blessings for all of us. In this word, na comes. Na means it is not no, it is naha, which is all of us. So seeking the blessings from all the deities for our swasti. Swasti means bon voyage, smooth journey for our scriptural study. Gods invoked here are Indra, who is the king of Devas, who is also known for his glories. Pusha is the Surya Deva, representing the omniscient God who nourishes the entire creation. Starksho is the Garuda Deva, known for obstruction-free journey. And finally, Bruhaspati, who is the Deva Guru, deity of wisdom and our intellect. May Bruhaspati, the Deva Guru, bless us with the intelligence to understand and assimilate the scriptural study. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now may I request Mr. Venkatesh Prasad to take over for the final segment of this class. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Divakar. We have come to the end of today's program. Thank you all for being a part of Guru Vandana. I would like to thank Dr. Ravi Shankar, Srimati Rama Gopalakrishna, Srimati Radha Muralidharan, and Dr. Divakar for their excellent presentations. I thank Sri Madhusudan for his melodious chanting of Guru Vandana. Thank you, Dr. Hegde sir, for your in-depth talk on Guru Mahima and your wonderful introduction to Upanishads. Also, sir has given beautiful insights of Upanishads. You may have your doubts. The chat option is already enabled. Please make use of it to type your questions, which shall be answered on Friday for the 6th session of Introduction to Vedanta. The session on Kaivalya Upanishad will continue on next Sunday, same time. Please note that Henceforth, we will have class on 2 days in a week. Introduction to Vedanta on Fridays and Upanishad class on Sundays. Both days, class will commence at 6:45 p.m. local time sharp. Now, good night and good day, depending on what time zone you are logged in. Looking forward to meet you all on Friday evening, same time. Please do not forget to log in before 6:45 p.m. Thank you once again. Hari Om.